Thank you. You may start the meeting at your convenience.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can I have a mover and seconder to do that, please? Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Ma. All those in favor? Councillor Moore? Okay, that is carried. Due to COVID-19, Council taking the necessary steps to limit in-person meetings. As such, members of Council are participating in the meeting electronically. The meeting is being live streamed. Residents are provided with the following options to watch or listen to the council meeting. They can watch the meeting live on the township website, www.springwater.ca, or they can listen to the meeting on the township's, listen to the meeting live from a telephone or cellular device by calling 647-558-0588 and using the following ID, 847-6496-4244 with the pound sign. This is available during the meeting. Those who are unable to watch the live stream are encouraged to review the meeting at their convenience by watching the video on the township's YouTube channel. Before we start, we learned of the tragic passing of Sam Langman last week. Sam and his family have been involved members of our community and residents of the area for the past 5 generations. Sam and his wife, Wendy, have contributed so much to the community over the years. Sam will be missed by all who had the pleasure of meeting him. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest, Council? Okay, seeing none, I will now call upon Dr. Jeff Goliski and David Gravel from Southern Georgian Bay Family Physician Recruitment, joining us electronically via Zoom with a deputation with an update on the Southern Georgian Bay Family Physician Recruitment. You may share your screen during the presentation, and once it's completed, stop sharing the screen, and then we will have questions, comments after the presentation. Welcome, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'll try and share our screen here and hopefully the technology works. All righty. So thank you, Mayor Allen and members of council. I'm David Gravel, the Physician Recruitment Officer for the Southern Georgian Bay area. I'm joined this evening by Dr. Jeff Goliski. Dr. Goliski is a family physician as well as an ER physician in Midland and chair of our Family Physician Recruitment Program. Dr. Goliski is also the program director of the University of Toronto's Rural Family Medicine Program, which has 4 sites, Orillia, Port Perry, Orangeville, and Midland. I will provide you with a high-level description of our program, and then Dr. Goliski and I would be happy to answer your questions. As a quick backgrounder, our program started in 2006 when Georgian Bay General Hospital divested itself from family physician recruitment. This made the role of recruiting family doctors a community responsibility. The North Simcoe community rallied around this cause as we were in crisis. Almost 1/3 of our community, about 12,000 to 14,000 people, did not have a family doctor at that time. Volunteers fundraised and ultimately hired me in the fall of 2006 to lead the program. Springwater Township has been part of our task force since our inception, contributing both financially and providing a representative, Councillor Ritchie, to attend our quarterly meetings. Our initial strategy was really simple. If you had a pulse and a medical license to practice in Ontario, we were interested in talking to you. We were very successful early on and averted a crisis. However, behind the scenes, we were working on developing a long-term plan and developing trusting relationships with our physicians. This buy-in by physicians has been critical to our success. They have worked with us to develop plans so we don't get caught in a crisis again. and they have embraced teaching as the cornerstone to building a robust pipeline of candidates. And lastly, they have become leaders. Besides Dr. Galiski, others we've recruited have become leaders like Dr. Vic Ralhan, our new Chief of Staff at Georgian Bay General, Dr. Dan Lee, who's the Chief of Emergency, and Dr. Paige Churchill, the Chief of Surgery, who is facilitating an expansion of the surgical program at Georgian Bay General. For the first decade, our program included free community visits for physicians and their families, a $20,000 incentive payment for a 2-year commitment, relocation reimbursement, and a welcome package from our business community, such as a YMCA membership, golf or curling memberships, lease on a car, and legal and accounting services. As stewards of fundraised monies, our steering committee had many discussions over the years over the rationale of paying financial incentives. After polling our recruited physicians and determining that money was the last reason they were recruited, we eliminated financial incentives in 2013, and over the years have reduced our moving costs down to $4,000. These evolutions in our program have not only impacted our ability to recruit, but what they've done is allowed our program to be financially sustainable, running on a budget of approximately $75,000 a year. Our family physician recruitment program is supported by the province in 2 ways. They host a jobs portal called hfojobs.ca, and they support physicians who set up practices in rural and remote communities through what's called the N3R initiative, which is the Northern Rural Recruitment and Retention Initiative. The criteria for this initiative is based on what's called the Rurality Index of Ontario. And I'm sorry to get into the weeds here. The threshold for this is a score of 40 on this RIO index. Midland is 38, Penetanguishene is 42, Tiny and Tay townships are 43. Unfortunately, Springwater is 32 and not eligible. It's below the score of 40. So if a physician establishes his or her practice in Penetanguishene, for example, they get a little over $80,000 over 4 years. That same physician practicing in Midland or Springwater, seeing the same patients, get zero from the government. It's unfair, and we've actually lobbied against the program because it's unfair to our partnering municipalities. Our recruitment program has come full circle. Originally, our focus in 2006 was the recruitment of family physicians. In 2008, the portfolio for the recruiter was expanded to include recruitment of specialist physicians for Georgian Bay General. We are now one program, but funded separately. The family physician recruitment program is funded by various sources, such as municipal taxation and fundraising, while the hospital recruitment program is supported from the GBGH operating budget. We have 5 main strategies for recruitment. Our most prominent is the Rotary Recruitment Through Education program, which is supported by the Rotary Club Midland. We have partnered with 2 medical schools in particular, the University of Toronto and the Northern Ontario School of Medicine, as their medical residents and medical students live and learn with us. We are in the process of expanding this program, in particular with NOSM. We are a good fit as their students get a variety of experiences here, from family medicine, emergency medicine, psychiatric medicine, and working with the French, English, and Indigenous cultures and communities. The other benefit of this relationship we've struck is that our youth are considered Northerners when applying to the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. And that was not the case before we developed this partnership with NOSM. Our first local student to be accepted to NOSM is Sophie Thomas, pictured with her dad, Midland Dr. Richard Thomas, and our 3 Northern Ontario School of Medicine students who are here right now with us until April 2021. And if you're curious, Sophie is the under tall one. Sophie is attending the Sudbury campus and is in her first year with a plan to come back to follow in her dad's footsteps. Our brand is Our Docs Teach, and the strategy is working. Working with dozens of other physician preceptors, we've positioned ourselves as one of the premier rural academic training sites in the province. This strategy is cost effective, and the results have been staggering. For example, our retention rate from the University of Toronto Rural Family Medicine program is about 80%. They come, they learn, and they stay. Our other strategies include peer-to-peer recruitment, where our physicians act as ambassadors for our recruitment program. We also post on the province's jobs portal, hfojobs.ca. Due to COVID, we are creating a number of new connections via Zoom, which is assisting us in pre-qualifying candidates before we invite them for visits. And this may sound strange, but recruiters work collaboratively rather than competitively. A number of years ago, I initiated a working group of recruiters from the North Simcoe Muskoka LHIN to come together and discuss challenges, trends, needs, and opportunities. As we are recruiting millennials for the most part, we have a strong online presence with our website, georgianbaydoctors.com. Our site is undergoing a facelift this fall and will be relaunched by the end of the year. We also are active on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We are where the candidates are. Physician recruitment can be a hard sell. We live in a great area, have a great proximity to the GTA and a four-season lifestyle, etc. However, I can tell you that dozens of other communities sell the same features. In 2012, our National Recruitment Association, called CASPER, asked a renowned professor from the University of Guelph's School of Rural Economic Development to look at the economic impact of physician recruitment in rural communities. Dr. Alan Lozon used the Windsor-Essex region as an example, and determining that the return on investment was a staggering 194% based on his research. And he commented to our national conference that communities should view physician recruitment as a strategic economic investment and not as a handout. So we invited Dr. Lozon to take a deep dive at the North Simcoe community. His work determined that the money spent by our recruitment committee, GBGH, and Waypoint provided an ROI of about 160%. Physician recruitment provides a massive benefit in terms of healthcare, but also from an economic perspective. I've shared Dr. Lozon's findings with the Economic Development Corporation of North Simcoe, and I'm happy to forward to your clerk for distribution to council if interested. We've been extremely successful recruiting physicians. Over 40 physicians have joined our community as family physicians, either full-time, part-time, or as locums, and over 85 specialists have joined the team at Georgian Bay General. While not everyone has stayed due to a variety of reasons, as some were only converting mat leaves or vacation coverages, our track record is remarkable. In 2007, our recruitment program and I were both recognized by CASPER, our National Recruitment Association, with a Lifetime Achievement Award. I've been part of CASPER as a board member, conference chairman, and volunteer, and I also mentor new physician recruiters across the country. What I'm most proud of is that the award recognizes the efforts of our committee, our volunteers, physicians, hospital staff, and many more who've worked together to ensure everyone has a family doctor. I'm wrapping up, but I want to say that we are like many other communities. We are experiencing a gray tsunami. In fact, our tsunami has two waves to it. One is we are an aging population. Secondly, our physician workforce still has a number of senior physicians who are slowing down. Based on our experience, the replacement ratio to replace an existing family doctor is 2.5 to 1. Based on our expected retirements and population growth, we still have to recruit 12 to 14 physicians. We are on our way. I'm pleased to announce that Dr. Adrian Stacey, Dr. Julie Caron, and Dr. Amanda Murdoch have started a new group family practice in Penetanguishene. It's called Waves Family Medicine, and they are accepting patients currently through Healthcare Connect. They fit the role of the candidates we're looking for. They are interested in care of the elderly. They look to support the hospital, as well as teaching and leadership. And at this time, we really want to ask a question of you. To help us meet our goal of ensuring everyone has a family doctor and to keep the program moving forward, we need our communities like yours to collaborate with our other communities. And our ask from the Township of Springwater is a $4,000 contribution for 2021. At this time, I'm going to stop my share and get Dr. Galiski and I back on screen and answer any questions you may have. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Gravel and Dr. Galiski. Before I start questions, comments, can I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please? Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Ma. So open it up to questions, comments, Council. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Dave and Jeff, I want to welcome both of you tonight coming before us. I appreciate your presence and your presentation. I support it. I mean, I'm in my third term as a counselor, so I've been sitting with you guys for a number of years. I see the need where there's doctors wanting to retire, there's new people, and there's a lot of growth in our area. This COVID thing has really affected us as we move into budget, but I support it. I support what you're doing. And thank you again for coming. And that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody's got a piano going there.
I'm sorry.
Any other comments, questions? Well, again, thank you for the presentation. We are going into our budget process, and we certainly will take this into consideration. Thank you, gentlemen. So the
Thank you so much.
recommendation, thank you, that the recommendations that the delegation from Dr. Jeff Goliski and David Gravel of Southern Georgian Bay Family Physician Recruitment be received. All those in favor? That is carried. I'll give you a moment to sign off, gentlemen. Thank you. Okay. Next, I can't. Yes, okay, there we go. Question period, number 4. Questions, we've changed it a little bit. Questions can be submitted in writing to the clerk, and residents may request and also have the choice of requesting an oral submission via electronic attendance through Zoom during the question period portion of the agenda. Submissions will be accepted until 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting, and further details are contained in the agenda for tonight with respect to this item 4. Clerk Ainsworth, have there been any questions submitted?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you, there has been a request submitted by Mr. Bill French, and he is here live at the meeting to provide his comment or question.
Mr. French.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, and council members for opening up the question period once again to live questions from the public, even though using a virtual medium. I thank you for continuing the tradition of Springwater Council being transparent. Now to the matter I would like to address. In regard to Agenda 10.1 on tonight's agenda, the notice of motion by Mayor Allen, I want to have some clarity on what statement was in fact entered as an agreed statement of facts to the courts when Mr. Allen pled guilty to the lesser charge of driving without due care. My understanding is that courts typically accept one agreed statement of facts when the Crown and defense come to an agreement or plea deal, which was the case with Mayor Allen when the criminal charges of dangerous and impaired driving were reduced to driving without due care, which is a provincial offense, as we know, under the Highway Traffic Act. There seems to be a marked difference from the agreed statement in the principal's integrity report, which they note was the disposition of the matter, versus the statement that Mr. Allen wants to have posted alongside the Integrity Commission report on the township website. Part 1 of my question, were both statements of fact presented and accepted at the court appearance? And part 2, and I'll give them everything right now, to remove any concern or doubt regarding possible bias with the court statements and knowing council's desire to be transparent about this unfortunate incident, would it not be more appropriate to have the township request a transcript of the court proceedings and post that on its website? So that's my 2-part question.
Thank you, Mr. French. As you may or may not be aware, there was a closed meeting that I did not partake in 2 meetings ago tonight at 4 o'clock and went till 5, went over to 5:15. There were a couple of motions, I believe, that arose from that once it became a public meeting again. I have not seen the details of those, just heard them briefly, and I've got to review those once they are typed and made public. So therefore, as a result of those, I will be withdrawing the 10.1 notice of motion this evening, and therefore I'm not in a position to answer this question at this time.
Okay, that's appropriate. So I do thank you for your time tonight, and thank you all. And it's great to have these live question periods and once again. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Clerk Ainsworth, any other questions?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There are no other submissions.
Okay, moving on to minutes, which is 5.1, the adoption of the minutes of council. Can I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please? Deputy Mayor Coughlin, Councillor Cabral. I declare a conflict with the item 3.2 on the regular council minutes of October 21st. So I will ask that the minutes at number 9 be pulled, and we'll turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin after we deal with the minutes listed from 1 to 8. Are there any questions or comments with respect to these minutes? Okay, seeing none, the recommendation is that the minutes of the council listed herein be approved as presented. That's the minutes of the special meeting September 28, 2020, the special meeting for a public meeting September 8, 2020, the special meeting of council October 7th, 2020, special meeting of council closed session on October 7th, 2020, the regular meeting of council on October 7th, 2020, the special meeting of council October 21 at 4 p.m., the special meeting of council closed session of October 21, 4 p.m., and the special meeting of council October 1, 2020 at 5 p.m. With the exception of item 9, the minutes of the regular meeting of council October 21, 2020, which will be dealt with separately. All those in favor? That is carried. Now I'll turn the chair over to Deputy Mayor Coughlin to deal with item 9, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen and Clerk Ainsworth. Do we need an additional mover and seconder for item 9, or can we use the same?
No, an additional mover and seconder, please.
So for item 9, a mover and seconder, Councillor Cabral and Councillor Moore. And that is to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of council on October 21st, 2020. All those in favor? Perfect, and that is carried. And I will turn the chair back to Mayor Allen. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. We move on to 5.4 minutes of boards, committees, and organizations. Mover and seconder to get these on the floor, please. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ma. 3 items. Any questions, comments about these? The recommendation is that the minutes of boards, committees, and other organizations listed herein be received as information. The minutes of the Springwater Public Library Board, September 15, 2020. The minutes of the Joint Accessory Advisory Committee, October 15, 2020, and the minutes of the Elmville BIA Board meeting of September 17, 2020. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to item 6.1. The following motion is moved by Councillor Moore and seconded by Deputy Mayor Coughlin for the recommendation relating to the information item request for support COVID-19 guidelines ski and snow resort facilities expressed by Mr. John Ball of Snow Valley Ski and Resorts on October 21st, 2020. I'll turn it over to Councillor Moore if you'd like to make some introductory comments with respect to this.
Thank you very much, Mayor Allen. Truly, it is related to COVID, of course, and the wish that the ski resort have special dispensation or be deemed an essential service should the staging change from what it is right now related to COVID. I say staging, but as of yesterday, I think we've changed into zones and different colors. So, but it's all the same. They want to really just be deemed an essential service. Should we move into a more stringent and strict environment?
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from councillors with respect to this? Councillor Ma?
Thank you, Mary Ellen. I think this is a great idea, especially with the kids and the families being COVID through the summer. I think the winter will be worse with the weather. So I think we should adopt this or approve this because I think it's a great idea and they should be deemed as essential. Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments? I will read the motion then. Be it resolved that the correspondence and information from John Ball of Ski Snow Valley dated October 21, 2020, requesting support to declare snow sports as essential services in the provinces, stage 2 COVID efforts be received, and whereas on March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic, and whereas all levels of government are effectively working collaboratively in response to the evolving COVID-19 situation, and whereas the Government of Ontario has developed a comprehensive framework for reopening our province, and whereas many low-risk outdoor activities were permitted to reopen in stage 1 and 2 of the provincial reopening framework, and whereas the timing of the release of stage 3 framework and Ontario Regulation 3642/20 made under Reopening Ontario, a flexible response to COVID-19 Act 220 has not fully considered the outdoor winter recreation and operations of Ontario's ski industry. And whereas Ontario's ski industry generates approximately $420 million annually to the provincial economy and supports over 14,000 jobs, and whereas Nordic skiing, alpine skiing, snowboarding, and snowshoeing provide low-risk opportunities and outlets for participation in outdoor-based activities that improve physical and mental health and overall well-being, and whereas the ski industry has developed comprehensive operational plans and established best practices through the Ski Well, Be Well program to ensure compliance with regulations and public health directives and reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission. Now therefore, the Council of the Township of Springwater hereby respectfully requests that the Government of Ontario consult with the ski industry through the Ontario Snow Resorts Association to review provincial reopening policy and create a policy that would enable Ontario ski resorts to remain open in a phase 2 COVID-19 scenario. All those in favor? That is carried. Oh, sorry, there was on the next page, a part of the resolution, and further that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Ontario Snow Resorts Association, the County of Simcoe, the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, the Ontario Medical Officer of Health, and the Premier of Ontario. So that was part of the motion as well. Councillor Moore?
No, just agree.
Okay. I think we all agree on that motion. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, the action reports. There are 2 of them: release of securities, Snow Valley Highlands Phase 5, and the acquisition of property 1132 Snow Valley Road. Mover and seconder to get this on the floor: Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ma. Would either of these like to be pulled? Councillor Hanna?
I believe it's 7.3, please. Hasty try.
Yeah. Anybody have questions or comments with respect to 7.2? Okay, so the motion that the action report item 7.2 be received and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. 7.2, release of securities, Snow Valley Highlands Phase 5. All those in favor? That is carried. So we move on to 7.3, the acquisition of property 1132 Snow Valley Road. I'll come to you again, Councillor Hanna, in a moment, but beforehand, CAO Schmidt, can you update us further to your report on any information? Clerk Ainsworth.
Mayor Allen, if I could just ask you to get a mover and seconder for the
Oh,
motion,
yes,
please.
for that second one. Yep. Deputy Mayor Coughlin and Councillor Ritchie. Go ahead, CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So tonight, before you, Council has a report for your consideration on trying to move forward and finalize the acquisition of the hasty track that staff have been working on for a number of years now, alongside with Council. And I would also be remiss if I didn't provide some recognition to the former CAO, Mr. Robert Brindley, who played an active role in getting to where we are today. So at this point in time, essentially, as I mentioned tonight, we're at a point where we've negotiated, if you will, to the extent we could, a purchase price for the hasty track. So the property located at 1132 Snow Valley Road. It's the eastern portion that abuts Bayfield Street and Snow Valley Road. It's approximately 50 acres, and the township is looking to move forward and seeking council's permission to acquire this property to move forward with a community hub. I think I'll leave it at that, Mr. Mayor, and if any members of council have questions, I'll do my best to answer those.
So start with Councillor Hanna.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question for CAO Schmidt. And I think we all need to congratulate staff and the council for moving this forward. I think it's going to be something great for Springwater in the future. On page 5, there's two numbers for development charges. I'm not disputing the numbers. My question is, how much money are we collecting because we're building this through development charges? We're collecting development charges for a fire hall, for a recreation center on the property. I'm just curious what portion of this 2,184 or 2,184 or the 2,446, how much of that is development charges we're collecting? My point being is if we didn't go forward and do this, we wouldn't be able to collect any development charges for it, correct?
CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Hanna. So I'll do my best to answer your question. So right now, the township charges development charges for any new growth-related projects, capital projects that are within our development charge background study. So the background study was completed most recent one was completed in 2018 and provides for a number of growth-related projects that the township would like to move forward with over the next 10 years. As part of that, this project is part of one of those projects, and right now we collect an amount of approximately almost $13,000 in development charges on a residential unit. So of that $13,000, there's about $5,500, give or take, that goes towards indoor and outdoor recreation, which is what this applies to. So the project that we're talking about tonight, we have collected funds. I believe the development charges in this specific area, the amount I believe is just over $3 million that we've collected to date. And obviously we will continue to collect development charges towards this project and all the other projects that have been listed in the background study as development comes forward, and as they seek building permits, they pay their development charges at that time. So hopefully I've addressed your question or your question. If not, be happy to try to clarify.
Yes, that's yes. Any other?
I just wanted to follow up, please.
Oh, okay. Follow up.
Thank you. My point being for asking the question is, if there's anybody that's objecting to us spending this kind of money, my point being is, if we didn't do it, we couldn't collect the development charges for it. Is that correct?
CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hanna, correct. We would not be in a position to have collected for this specific project. If it's not identified in the DC, we shouldn't be collecting for it. That's correct.
Thank you.
Other comments? This is fantastic that it is moving forward. I have to acknowledge and thank MPP Doug Downey. He attended in the delegation that CEO Schmidt and I made to Minister Iacobucci's staff on this, and thank, of course, CAO Schmidt, who's worked with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry tirelessly to push this along. It was slow going at certain times, but it paid off in that the government is willing to adjust the price by half of our costs, which is fantastic. And Minister Yakabuchi actually called me yesterday and to ensure we got the letter. And I said it was going before council this evening, and that hopefully we would be able to respond positively before the end of the week, because we'd like to consummate this and get moving on the details of planning with respect to this. All right, I'm not seeing other cards, so I'll read the motion that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding acquisition of property at 1132 Snow Valley Road, otherwise known as Hasty Track, dated November 4, 2020 be received, and that council approve the final purchase price of $3,884,846 plus HST for a portion of the Hasty Track property described as Part Lot 13, Concession 5, Township of Vespra, in the Township of Springwater, designated as Part 1 of Reference Plan 51R 42433, known municipally as part of 1132 Snow Valley Road, and that council approved the funding of $2,467,818 from development charges, $890,102 from debt, $350,000 from Parkland Reserve Funds, and $245,299 from reserves. And that council authorized the Director of Finance and or their designate to transfer the final purchase price funds to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and that a bylaw authorizing the purchase of land be presented for consideration at the November 4, 2020 regular meeting of council, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to execute any necessary documents required to finalize the purchase of the Hasty Tracks property. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Moving on to 8.1, information reports. We have 6 of them. Could I have a mover and seconder to get these on the floor? Councillor Cabral and Councillor Ma. Any questions with respect to these? All right, seeing none, that the report items listed herein be received as information. The monthly fire report for August 2020, the fire report for September 2020, Culvert 207 replacement update, online dog tag purchases, additional residential units, OP 2020-01 and ZP 220-06, the 2020 OSIM inspections and capital recommendations. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to verbal reports. Director Spagnell, any official plan update or economic development update?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I do not have anything new to report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO Schmidt, Midhurst Development and COVID updates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll try to keep it somewhat brief here. So with regards to the Midhurst Development update, so as you're likely aware, the developers are continuing to move forward with their earthworks for the mixed subdivision. They're about 75% complete now. In addition to that, the staff and the developer continue to work away on the execution of their sales office agreement. A building permit application has been submitted for the sales office, and building services staff are in a position right now to issue a conditional permit, which would be for the foundation only. And once the agreement and the appropriate securities obviously have been filed with the township. So once we receive the securities and the execution of the agreement, then we can go ahead and issue the conditional permit. Further to that, building services staff has also received a permit for the wastewater treatment plant, and they're currently in the preliminary stages of reviewing that. We, staff and our consultants, so engineering and our solicitor, are currently working on drafting a stage 2 subdivision agreement and an external works agreement for the mixed subdivision. And once this is finalized, we will be coming to council for your consideration. And lastly, the developers on the east side of Midhurst, so over Gill Road area, have recently reached out to the township and have requested a meeting to begin discussions surrounding their development. So I can report on that once we've had that meeting. But at this point, I'll answer any questions that council may have on the Midhurst update. If not, I can move to the COVID update.
I'm not seeing any, so please proceed with COVID.
Okay, just quickly, again, the Emergency Community Control Group, we continue to meet and discuss and monitor the current public health situation and any potential impacts on the township. We will be, I typically participate in a weekly call with the medical officer of health for the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit. That call is tomorrow. And so coming out of that call, I'll advise and provide any updates as I see necessary. Obviously, there's been some changes. I think Councillor Moore mentioned it a little bit earlier. You know, there has been some recent changes as of yesterday with York and Peel and Ottawa, and subsequent to that, there's going to be some lifting of restrictions, I guess, in Toronto in the next week. However, you know, there has been some discussion in Simcoe County specifically, or Simcoe Muskoka, whereby our incidents are increasing higher than the province, and so we'll see what the doc says tomorrow, if you will, Dr. Gardner, and see whether or not there'll be any further restrictions put on Simcoe Muskoka. So further to that, to date, Springwater has had 22 confirmed cases of COVID, of which 20 have now recovered and 1 has passed. The latest case was reported on October 27th, and it was a male in the age range of 35 to 44, and it was community acquired. Further to that, again, all township facilities, with the exception of our community halls and centers, have now reopened. And to date, everyone appears to be abiding by proper protocols. So again, I thank everyone for addressing that and assisting us. And I think, Mr. Mayor, I'll leave it at that. And should members of council have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, council? Councillor Hanna.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the CAO, Schmidt. Remembrance Day. I know some municipalities, City of Barrie, I believe, have canceled the parade and so on. Will there be any wreath placements at cenotaphs, and will you be able to determine that tomorrow in your meeting?
CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Hanna. So, Councillor Hanna, the district health unit, or the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, has met with all of, or the majority of the legions within Simcoe Muskoka, and have essentially recommended that virtual ceremonies happen. And if they do want to do something in person, they need to limit the number of individuals that would be attending. So maybe 4 to 6 people at most. So I think most ceremonies will be conducted virtually. And I believe Base Borden, I thought I read something recently that Base Borden was going to be streaming something from their site. So you might see quite a few different streams happening, and not a lot of ceremonies happening in person. So.
Sorry, thank you. The reason I'm asking, for example, Councillor Moore and myself generally place a wreath or annually at the cenotaph in Springwater Park. I just didn't know whether we should be preparing to do that, the same with some other locations or not.
No, I think through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hanna, it's my understanding that won't be happening. I can confirm with staff, and I can follow up with you tomorrow or in the next day or so, just to let you know and confirm that. But it's my understanding that that won't be happening this year.
Certainly, with respect to Elmville, it's been made clear that they're not wanting gatherings. That there will be 4 individuals in the Legion placing the wreaths. So. Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to CAO Schmidt. I don't know what we have coming up in the way of possible advertising opportunities or Twitter, whatnot, but would it be possible to have the communications officer look at communicating the fact that there won't be any Remembrance Day gatherings? A lot of people might just take for granted that it's Remembrance Day and head on down there, regardless of whether there is something going on or not. So I'm just kind of thinking ahead, and I'm happy that Councillor Hanna brought this point up, because a lot of folks are just going to head over there. So whatever we can do to kind of twig them to the fact that due to COVID, it won't be happening would be awesome.
Thank you. All right. Yes, CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that. And absolutely, Councillor Cabral, we can look into that. I did want to mention, though, that there was a media release sent out today as well with regards to Remembrance Day banners that have been placed in downtown Elmville. So again, congratulations to staff and the BIA and anyone else that was involved in doing that and getting that done. So I appreciate that.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes, Mayor Allen, just to speak about what CAO Schmidt is talking about. I watched our crew today put the flags up along the street lights of all the people in the area here that paid the ultimate sacrifice in those two wars, and it really, really looks nice, and it's a real compliment to Remembrance Day. So thanks to our staff that did it, and again, it really makes our town look nice. So just want to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to comment on this on municipal updates, but it was, as the release said, a partnership between the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 262 in Elmville, the Elmville BIA, and our township. So 32 people are featured this year on banners, and hopefully there are 100 local veterans photos that are in the hall on the walls of the Elmville Legion. So hopefully this will be able to continue in future years as well. But one thing that's come forward is that the Poppy Drive is really suffering. They're about 25% of their normal annual revenue. So please encourage people there are Poppy boxes around, donation boxes, to remember to donate to the Legion through the Poppy boxes. Okay, moving on to county updates. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Last county meeting, most notably, there was a motion to reconsider put on the floor, and it was supported by our 2/3 majority of county council, and that was to reconsider county council having the option to have our governance committee consider a council comprised of 16 members and a full-time or fully dedicated warden. So that is back on the table and will be part of the future discussions of the governance committee. And also notably, tomorrow our budget will be tabled, and it is at a 0% coming forward. So that starts tomorrow.
And Councillor Deputy Mayor Coughlin, did you want to update about our warden?
Oh, yes. Warden Cornell has been acclaimed as warden. Thank you, Mayor Allen. And there will be required to have a vote on December 8th, I believe it is, as there are 2 candidates for deputy warden, which would be the existing deputy warden, Barry Burton of Clearview Township, and now we have Lynn Dolan of ESSA, who have put their names in for deputy warden. So that would be a change. And there is also, at that time, will be the elections for chair and vice chair of the 3 committees moving forward on December 8th as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, moving on to notices of motion. As I mentioned before, I'm withdrawing 10.1 notice of motion. Are there any other notices of motion? Councillor Hanna?
No, we missed the municipal update. We went from county update and missed municipal update.
Yes, yeah, I sort of thought we were merging it with the other reports. So with any other municipal updates, Councillor?
Thank you. I just wanted to speak to thank staff and our council as a whole. We all agreed, and the rumble strip grooves have now been cut on St. Vincent Street as you approach the curves. Since the time they were included yesterday until this morning, 52 positive responses from the residents that use the road. So I think it's a thing that we've finally done to maybe slow some of the people down as they approach the curves. The only consideration that was asked for, if maybe some signs near where the rumble strips are, I guess one gentleman ran over him, thought maybe something was wrong with his car. He didn't realize there was grooves cut in the road. So if that's something we could do in the future, is add a few more signs along with the rumble strips are, that'd be great. But anyway, so thank you to Works Department for doing a great job.
Thank you. Any other municipal updates? Okay, any other notices of motion? Moving on to item 11, any items for future consideration? Okay, and moving on to 12.1, and the mover and seconder for the bylaws, please. Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Ma, that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk, 2020-86 fees and charges bylaw, and 2020-90 authorize acquisition of land, part of 1132 Snow Valley Road. All those in favor? It is carried. Confirmatory bylaw, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Moore and Deputy Mayor Coughlin, that the bylaw 2020-87 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of the council, the regular meeting held on November 4, 2020, listed herein, be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? That's carried. And adjournment, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Cabral, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:22 p.m. to meet again in a regular meeting on November 18, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you and good night.
Mike Bernie, if you're still out there, will you call me, please?